Perfect.
Still recording.
Alrighty. Here we go.
His name is spelled weird.
Earle.
They had to throw the E on there
Earle.
just to look fancy smancy.
Yeah, that's how it separates them redneck Earls from them fancy Earls. Okay, enough Cheyenne. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Heather.
And on today's murder menu is
Earle Leonard Farrell, a.k.a. the Gorilla Killer. But first, some trigger warnings.
Go Trigger Warnings.
Murder, essay, and graphic language.
Viewer discretion is advised. In the 1920s, a serial killer killed around North America, killing women who were landladies. They called him the Gorilla Strangler. Alrighty then.
He was born Earle Farrell on May 12, 1897 in San Francisco to an English mother and a Spanish father. Before the age of 2, he lost both his parents at separate times to syphilis. He was then sent to live with his maternal grandparents, Lars and Jenny Nelson. There's some pretty names in here already.
Syphilis.
Well, I wasn't considering that as one.
Well,
But
get old syphilis.
their first order of business was changing the child's name to match their own.
Fancy schmancy. Nelson was raised strictly alongside his aunt and uncle, who were 10 and 8 years older than him. His grandparents were devoted Pentecostals who held extreme beliefs. They taught their children that sex was dirty and adhered to a hellfire and damnation. Nelson was required to become quiet, submissive, and unable to defend himself. Well, damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah. And if sex is so dirty, how did their kids get here?
I guess it's only dirty if you do it more than one person. But I mean, his parents, one of them wasn't innocent because they caught syphilis.
This didn't last long, though. By the age of 7, he was expelled from the Aziz primary school for exhibiting odd or morbid behavior. At age 10, he was in a cycling accident where he collided with a streetcar, causing severe damage to his head and scalp. He woke up after a 6-day coma. Afterwards, his behavior was described as erratic and was known to suffer from frequent headaches and memory loss as well.
I'm starting to see a pattern that in some serial killers, they weren't born that way. Some,
a lot of them has had head injuries. A lot of them that we've covered.
Right. Which takes you back to the frontal temporal lobe and all that scientific
mumbo jumbo.
Right. Uninhibited from acting reckless, Nelson began really acting out, talking to people who weren't there. So I do that on a day-to-day basis.
Same.
Compulsively quoting the Bible and watching women. Well, I don't do that.
I don't do that.
I watch my husband, but I don't watch women. Sometimes even women in his own family undressed. Ugh. As a young teenager, Nelson began visiting brothels, pubs, bars around San Francisco. Barbary Coast Red Light District. Ooh, he gonna go get him some syphilis. He also grew up to be quite physically strong, with big hands and long arms. Well, let's see.
Nelson's criminal career also began quite early. In 1915, he was sentenced to 2 years in San Quentin State Prison for breaking into a cabin in Plymouth County. He was paroled on September 6th, 1916, and it wasn't heard from until his arrest again in Stockton on March 9th, 1917. He didn't waste no time.
Oh, they never do. And they always get a slap on the wrist a lot of times. Oh, we're sentencing you for 2 years, but here, just serve 8 months and you'll get out early.
For petty larceny. In 1917, for petty larceny, he was released after 6 months. After that, Nelson was arrested in LA for burglary, where he spent approximately 5 months. Jesus. In LA County Jail, where he escaped.
Of course he did. He wasn't a dummy. In order to make money, Nelson also came up with a scheme. In the late 1917, he would enlist in the military, but desert after 6 weeks. This went on and on, enlisting at different branches, using different names, earning a little money, and then deserting before called to action. This was put to a stop in 1918 when he committed to Napa State Mental Hospital for behaving oddly and erratically during one of his stints with the Navy. The Navy psychologist in charge of his case stated in Nelson's file that he was living in a constitutional psychotic state. First off, the military didn't pay that good, and they still don't. Right. And secondly, not enough to make me go to different branches and be like, hey, my name's Bob today, and I want to be a Navy. Or a Marine. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Nelson managed to escape the hospital at least 3 times, earning him the nickname Houdini. On May 17th, 1919, he was formally discharged from the Navy in Abstina. No longer a member of the Navy, the hospital couldn't keep him on. He was released and his file was closed with a note stating he had improved. Of course it did.
It's kind of sounds like he's got paranoid schizophrenia, or multiple personality disorder. For whatever reason, for whatever reason, Nelson began using the pseudonym Evan Lewis Fuller, and worked as a janitor at St. Mary's Hospital. There he would meet Mary Martin. Jesus, take the wheel. He would meet Mary Martin, a 60-year-old.
This is great.
60-year-old administrative worker. They began dating and married quickly. Of course, because, them married girls, they always move quickly. Married quickly in August of 1919. Not all Marys, just the Marys we know move quickly. Oh, and look, would you look at that? Separated. Oh, wow. No brainer.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I had no idea this is how this was going to go.
Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet.
It can only get better from here.
Facts.
Welcome to the shit show.
It's beginning now.
Mary separated from him after only 6 months. She said he made her life a living hell.
Those words. Oh my God. Have you met the Mary we know?
This is great.
Oh my God. That's like straight out of a playbook for that Mary.
One in the same.
Oh, fuck.
living hell with his jealous rages, bizarre sexual demands, ridiculous delusions, and increasingly violent behavior.
You know, if the guy wasn't a serial killer, I would tell her she's delusional herself. But clearly she wasn't all delusional because he is a serial killer. But
we're not trying to make light of this, but
she should have been his first victim. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
Mary, you can borrow.
Mary.
Moving on.
Mary knew she wasn't safe, so she left him.
Nearly 2 years later, on May 19th, 1921, Nelson found himself in trouble with the authorities yet again. Posing as a plumber, he gained entry into a residence and attempted to sexually assault the 12-year-old's daughter. The girl screamed and Nelson fled. He was captured riding a trolley a few hours later. Well, that's interesting.
At a competency hearing, Nelson was determined to be a danger to himself and to society. Of course he was, but he kept getting away.
And he'll get away with it.
As a result, he was recommended to Napa State Mental
Recommended.
Jesus Christ. Yup. Recommitted to Napa State Mental Hospital. However, his nickname held true, and he managed to escape twice before being discharged from the hospital.
Of course he did.
In 1925.
Of course he did.
Would it be any different than the first time?
Facts. Following his release, there are two different theories. One theory states his murder spree began the very year he was released. Others claim it began a year later in 1926. Either way, he did go on an extravagant murder spree.
Ooh,
Here we go.
If the first theory is to be believed, Nelson didn't waste a lot of time before he began in Philadelphia. He was free, unemployed, and homeless. He began looking for boarding houses with rooms for rent, signs in order to find lodging, and then his pattern emerged. On October 18th, 1925, in Philadelphia, the body of Miss Alla McCoy was discovered on November 6th, 19 days later. Miss May Murray was found strangled to death. 3 days later, the body of Lillian Weiner was also discovered strangled, sprawled across her bed. Holy shit.
So, he wasted zero time at this point. At this point, I don't think it was a game for him. I think he just enjoyed it so much he couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Because he sexually assaulted them and then strangled them. All three bodies had many similarities. Each woman fought desperately for her life and were sexually assaulted after death. So, he's a necrophiliac. Of course.
We always get these.
Between necros and leaf fucking, can it get anywhere? I shouldn't say that.
Please don't say that.
Scratch that. Assaulted after
Don't
death.
speak worse into the air.
Each woman had their wrist bound with a strip of clothing knotted with a particularly complicated sailor's knot. Well, he was in the Navy, so of course he was taught knots. At each resident, it was found that items of clothing had been stolen, only to turn up at a pawn shop. So basically, he makes this ruse, gets in with the woman, strangles her, ties her up, strangles her, fucks her, and then pawns her. What's any different from what fuckboys do now? Other than they don't kill them because they're retarded.
They're retarded for not committing murder?
No, they're just stupid. They're just stupid little fuckboys that don't. This guy had a brain. Fuckboys nowadays don't have brains.
True.
Well, they have brains. It's just in a penis and not in an actual thinking way.
Yeah. Their brain is in the wrong head.
And it, majority of the time, is smaller than the one that's on their shoulders.
Well, I would hope so.
That is true. That is true. I would not. Nope. Okay, moving on. Nope. Not going there.
Oh, gosh. While uncertain if these three women are the first victims of Earle Leonard Nelson.
Are we boring you?
You know, stop yawning. Sorry.
Oh, shit.
And I'm not even tired. I just can't stop yawning. They did fit the pattern he established, and that is officially attributed to him. He would find rooms for rent signs, attack vulnerable women when they were alone, and then pawn off stolen items in order to make money.
So he's a no pussy. The dates of the murders are all also quite uncertain. The dates mentioned are what I presume, or what we presume, are the victims that were found. Otherwise, the timeline of Nelson's actions just simply doesn't make any sense. Because he was erratic all through all of them.
Right. In early 1926, Nelson traveled back to San Francisco on February 20th, 1926. He posed as a potential renter named Roger Wilson. He is coming up with some weird, he's coming up with a lot of different names.
Hey.
And encountered Clara Newman.
You like him older, that's for sure.
Yeah. The 60-year-old wealthy landlady of the
2037 Pierce Street boarding house.
Yes. Thank you. Nelson strangled her, raped her, and left her in a vacant apartment in the house. He pulled the same trick
in San Jose.
Yeah.
Probably.
Strangling 63-year-old Laura Bale with a stocking cord. I was trying to
silken? I almost said silken, so.
I was trying to think of what a stocking cord is.
I don't know. We are in the 1900s, so maybe pantyhose.
Her body was found on March 2nd, 1926. I am curious.
What? You're gonna look it up?
I am.
Yo, Siri, what the fuck is a stocking cord?
Curious minds want to know.
But it's spelled silken. SILKEN. Cord.
Oh, it looks like the stuff that we buy the kids to make bracelets.
Oh, bitch, that's to tie the curtains back.
Yeah.
I ain't never heard of them put like that, but alright.
You see?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. That's braided kind, but
yeah,
it's to tie the curtains back. So they probably got in a tussle and he stole it from the curtain. Back in San Francisco, Nelson strangled and raped 63-year-old Lillian Mary. She was found on June 26, 1926. Roughly 2 weeks later, he strangled and sexually assaulted 53-year-old Ollie Russell in her boarding house. He clearly liked them older. Probably because they were more vulnerable and not, like,
but they
full
probably,
spunk.
Yeah, they wasn't able to put up much of a fight.
On August 16th, 1926, 52-year-old Mary Nisbet was found raped and strangled. She was in apartment building Presbyterian? Sure, we'll go with it. She was left to be found by her husband in the bathroom of a vacant apartment. Witnesses gave descriptions of a smiling stranger, a large man who was seen lurking outside the building, and this sparked Nelson's first few nicknames in the headlines: the Dark Strangler, the Gorilla Man, and the Gorilla Killer. Well, at least he didn't name himself, so we'll give him props for that.
No, but that's the thing. The cops always give these killers, like, super cool names.
But here's the thing, though. Watching Criminal Minds, you should never name the killer before you have a full profile.
Right.
Because then you get stuck with the Gorilla Killer, and this one, what?
Yeah, but that's actually kind of cool.
Good thing he's white. I would have been racist. Moving on. I'm going to have to edit that one out. Moving on.
Girl, you're not ready to get us canceled.
No, I'll edit it out. It's fine.
In fall 1926, Nelson moved on to Portland, Oregon. He raped and strangled 35-year-old landlady Betta Withers.
Mm-hmm.
Her son found her stuffed beneath a pile of clothes in a steamer trunk.
Well, damn.
In the attic on October 19th, 1926.
That was a darn twister.
Yeah, it was. The next day, October 20th, 59-year-old Virginia Grant was found murdered on a piece of property she owned. Her body was found hidden beneath the basement furnace. On the 21st, Maybelle Fluke, a landlady, reportedly disappeared from her home. She was found strangled in the attic.
Well, damn.
Why didn't they just call him the attic killer?
Well, because at that point he was all over the place before then. You didn't even know him on beds. You don't want to call him like the bed coupler.
Even that sounds pretty cool.
That's fucked up.
Like,
after that, Nelson returned to San Francisco again on November 18th, 1926. 56-year-old Anna Emmons was found raped and murdered. A friend of Anna's reported seeing a strange, large man in the parlor of her home, where Anna explained the man had shown an interest in buying the property, as it was for sale. The friend's description matched the gorilla killer. And on November 19th, 1926, an unnamed 28-year-old pregnant woman in California, was showing her home that was for sale to Nelson, who posed as a buyer when he attacked her. The woman survived the attack and gave investigators a great description of what her attacker looked like. She said that he was 5 feet, 8 inches, well-dressed, well-spoken,
so he was a very tall,
stocky, with large hands. So he was probably like, well, he was stocky, so I wouldn't say like a ladies' man, but back in the day, he was probably a charmer with his looks.
Wanting to flee after the woman survived, Nelson headed back to Portland. Stick with what you know.
Uh-huh.
On November 29th, 1926, Blanche Myers was found raped and murdered in her own home. By this point, news agencies across both states were putting out warnings to the public to be on the lookout for the gorilla strangler. That would make me think people's going around strangling gorillas.
Girl.
Just saying. and urging people to call with tips. A local Portland woman called and claimed she had a suspicious boarder in her boarding house who seemed to fit the bill.
Fit his description. Anyways, she told police that the man used the name Adrian Harris on the day of Blanche's murder. She told police that the man told her he was leaving from Vancouver, Washington. He implied that he would not be returning for some time. What was odd, though, was that he paid up for 7 days and insisted on giving her as well as the female boarder's parting gifts. The police confirmed that the gifts belonged to Florence Monks, a wealthy woman who had been murdered and raped in Seattle on November 23rd, 1926. So he liked his trophies. Figuring he was done with the West Coast, Nelson spent a year heading east, stopping off and backtracking here and there along the way. Why backtrack, though?
Right.
That was just stupid on his part.
On December 23rd, 1926, Nelson's trial led to Council Bluffs, Iowa, where 41-year-old Elmira Beard was found raped and murdered. Nelson had graded
her, changing
his mode to strangulation just a little bit. How do you strangle somebody just a little bit?
I don't know. I'm kind of curious, though.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, for sure, curious.
On December 27th, 1926, 23-year-old Bonnie Pace was found strangled and raped in her home, in her Kansas City, Missouri home.
Yeah.
On December 28th, 28-year-old German. I almost said gremlin.
Bitch. What? Gremlin? That's fucked up. I mean,
her woman and her 8-month-old infant were both found strangled in her Kansas City home. So even the age of his victims is all over.
Yeah. His timeline, age of victims, moving rapidly. Like,
he's killing everybody from 60 years old all the way down to 8 months
I think he just found, like, a certain... At first, I figured he just found a certain type, but at this point, he's just killing anybody and everybody he can. At this point, he just likes the thrill of it. Continuing east, Nelson found himself back in Philadelphia on April 27th, 1927. 53-year-old Mary McConwell was found raped, murdered in her home. He stole several items, intending to pawn them for cash, but the women at the pawn shop he visited wouldn't take them. He left without any problems. Using the name Charles Harrison, Nelson rented a room in Buffalo, New York on May 27th, 1927 from the 53-year-old Jenny Rudolph?
Yeah.
3 days later, she was found strangled, raped, and stuffed under a bed in her home. Jenny's brother added to the guerrilla's killer's description, stating that the man looked to be in his 30s, had a stocky build, a dark complex, and black hair, and that it was slicked back. So that kind of makes more sense of why they would call him the gorilla killer.
Yeah. I just cannot get over how many aliases this motherfucker has.
Like, who has time to sit down and be like, oh, I'm gonna be George today. You can call me George.
Like, it's almost like he has like different...
And then 7 days later, you call me Kenny.
Yeah, it's like he changes his identity once a month at least.
There ain't no way.
I ain't got time for all that.
I couldn't remember all that. Somebody look at me. Oh, hey, Karen. The fuck you call me?
Yeah.
Karen? Oh. I out myself.
Right. I'm not that smart.
I mean, at least you openly admit it.
I'd be like, who's that? That's not my name.
Wait, what?
I also can't hold secrets, so I would not be good at any of that because I'd be like,
Now,
oh yeah, I did.
if I needed somebody to help hide a body, I'm not calling you.
No.
They'll just give you tacos and you'll start talking. You want some Chick-fil-A? You tell us what you did with it. I'll give you some Chick-fil-A.
A bitch will tell all the secrets for some tacos. Especially if there's some mild sauce or some hot sauce.
Bring me all the good shit and I'll tell you exactly. I'll give you exact coordinates.
You get all the secrets. On June 1st, 1927, boarding house manager Fannie Mae. Oh, that is such a pretty name. And border Marine
Author
3
That's how it's
were found raped and murdered at the boarding house where Marine resided and Fanny managed. Fanny had been grated with an electric cable. We've already established what that is. Right?
Yeah, we know what electric table is.
Oh,
It's
that's
an
right.
extension cord.
That ain't the same as the other one.
No, not.
Never mind. Like I said, I'm not too smart.
That was something totally different. That was like a silken cord or...
Silken cord. That's what it was. Okay. There's a lot of cords and cables in this shit.
He's a strangler. He ain't apparently liking his two hands.
That's what I was going to say. He's making it complicated.
Wow.
2 days later, on June 3rd.
I had to think for Mary's.
He really did.
Just not the right one.
Oh, God.
Moving on.
27-year-old Mary Cicella.
Yeah.
I'm trying to...
I have no idea.
Systema?
Stelmana? Yeah, Systema. We'll go with that.
Was found strangled with an appliance cord
Mm-hmm.
in Chicago, Illinois. Her husband found her and also reported that many articles of men's clothing had been taken from their home.
Well, this time he stole men's stuff. A few days later, on June 8th of 1927, Nelson tried to hitch a ride out of Michigan, just outside of the town of Luna, Michigan. A Winnipeg? Manitoba man. W.E. Chandler found Nelson hitchhiking and offered him a ride. He took Nelson as far as Noyes, Minnesota, a small town near the Canadian border at Emerson, Manitoba. Nelson decided to walk the rest of the way north. After crossing the border, he was picked up by Mr. and Mrs. Hannah, also from Winnipeg, and they took him the rest of the way into town, dropping him off at a streetcar stop on the corner of Corydon and Osborne. Alrighty.
There was a lot of weird names in there.
Alrighty then.
I kind of just had to let you go on your own because I wasn't.
Thanks for the help there. Thanks for the assist.
With that one, it was every man for themselves.
Female. Every bitch for themselves.
We can't both be looking crazy.
Oh, we did a good job of that.
Oh, don't worry. My time will come when I look the same. When I fuck shit up too.
Right?
I do every episode. From there, Nelson walked along Osborne Street and then down Broadway Avenue, making it to Main Street. Nelson walked into a secondhand store and traded the clothes he stole from Systema home from a blue herringbone coat. Right? Yeah, we'll go with it. Herringbone coat, pants. That's what it said.
I know, but when you put it all together, it just sounds.
Oh, pants, black boots, gray felt hat, and $1 in cash.
So just a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
After that, Nelson walked from Main Street back to Broadway and to Smith Street, where he noticed a room for rent sign introducing himself as a religious man named Mr. Woodcott. He just never gives in.
Nah, you don't ever stop.
He rented a small room for Miss Kathleen Hill.
That evening, 14-year-old Lola Cohen disappeared after leaving her home. 2 days later, on June 10, 1927, Emily Patterson also went missing. She was found by her husband later the same evening. She had been raped, strangled, bludgeoned with a claw hammer, and stuffed under her son's bed. She was also clutching body hair in her fist.
Bloody hair.
Bloody. I said body. Clutching bloody hair in her fist.
Well, that would be another reason he would be called the Gorilla Man.
From her attacker, police discovered that several items were missing from her home. A local jeweler told police that he unknowingly bought jewelry from the Patterson home the day after the murder, and multiple items of clothing were found at a second-hand store nearby. So he basically just took what he could and sold where he could, whoever would take it.
Not too far away, a local barber told police that a man had came in asking for a haircut and a shave. He noticed the man had blood and scratch marks on his scalp. He said the man became agitated when inquired about them and requested they not be touched. Police figured they had a traveler and began looking into the boarding houses. During their search, the police came across Miss Hill's boarding house on June 12, 1927. When police searched the room the new boarder occupied, they found the body of Lola Cohen under the bed.
So, 14. Yeah, that was pretty young. That was the youngest one so far.
No, the 8-month-old.
Oh, okay. Well, for the sexual assault, I don't know if he sexually assaulted the 8-month-old, though. Possibly. Following the discovery, the city of Winnipeg posted a $1,500 reward for information. Mr. Chandler called in and told police about the man he had driven to Noise. Police had a reason to fear that the man who horrifically murdered a young girl and woman might flee back to the United States. In an effort to catch him, police sent descriptions of the gorilla strangler to the U.S. police stations and post offices. Armed with descriptions of the killer, constables in Killarney, Manitoba, roughly 20 kilometers from the North Dakota border, assisted a man named Vigil Wilson, who also fit the description. He was held in the local jail, but managed to escape the very same day. This mother...
He's slick.
This motherfucker's slick.
Nelson wasn't quite free and clear, though. In an attempt to flee, Nelson caught a train, but neglected to notice the train was transporting members of the Winnipeg police. What a dumb fuck. Oh my god.
Oh, shit.
12 hours later, after his escape, he was recaptured. Earle Leonard Nelson was officially arrested and taken to Rupert Street Station in Winnipeg, where he was photographed, fingerprinted, and measured.
Oh, because he's 5'8". I'm like, measure? Why the fuck we measure him? But never mind. Winnipeg police officers sent the photographs out to other police departments in the United States, which resulted in multiple positive identifications from witnesses in Illinois and California. News of his arrest made the headlines, with the Manitoba Free Press dubbing him the Gorilla Strangler. Throughout this ordeal, Nelson maintained the identity of Virgil Wilson. That's crazy. However, his identity was confirmed as Earle Leonard Nelson when the San Francisco Police Department forwarded their prints for Nelson to Winnipeg, and they were found to be a match. The prints also matched those left behind at several crime scenes, as well as teeth marks he left on some of his victims. Bitch, why you always gotta bite?
Why be dirty and not clean up after yourself?
I mean, he had sex with dead bodies, so
Touche.
if that's gross enough.
Yeah, but you'd think if you kill somebody, have sex with their corpse, you wouldn't want to leave any
I
trace.
still don't understand how you can have sex with a dead body. Like, they
'Cause I'm
release
sorry.
gases, so like
I'm
body
sorry.
floods.
I don't even want to. That's never mind.
Regardless of if you a freak or not, you won't clean yourself up. Why can't you clean the body up?
But if you're gonna be that nasty and do something like that, you're not gonna want anybody to know.
Well, clearly this motherfucker didn't care. That's just how it was. He didn't care.
Nelson refused to admit his guilt, though he made an early admission which he very quickly recanted, like they all do.
Oh, yeah.
Nelson,
Some of them are, oh, yeah, I did it, motherfucker.
Nelson's trial began November 1st, 1927. His ex-wife testified against him.
Of course she did. Would you expect Mary to do anything less?
Of course not. Witnesses after witnesses testified that he was the man seen at various sporting houses, around pawn shops, and linking him to property stolen from victims' homes. On November 5th, 1927, a jury deliberated for 40 minutes.
Well, damn, that was quick.
No shit. They wanted to get him quick.
Well, I mean, they had everything they needed.
Before finding him guilty of murdering Lola Cohen and Emily Patterson. He was quickly sentenced to death. On January 13th, 1928, Earle Leonard Nelson was executed by hanging.
7:30 a.m.
At 7:30 a.m. at the Vaughan Street Jail in Winnipeg. So he got exactly what he did to his victims.
He got to feel the strangulation. Yeah.
All besides the raping.
Yeah. He still probably got off on getting hung, though.
I mean, he probably got raped while he was in jail, but still.
On that note, that's a wrap on this week's episode. Once again, I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Heather.
And we have Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, just about anything and everything. You can hit us up. You can leave us comments if there's a certain serial killer you think that our humor would make you laugh about. let us know.
New episode Sunday. Bye.
48 minutes